Hi everybody, Tex-Mex here. Thanks for joining me for another video. Today we're going to take a look at the Feyachi RDS-57 2 MOA red dot sight. It is a shake away sight, as a lot of these newer sights are. So we're going to first open up the box, see what we get in there. Although spoiler alert, I've already opened this box once. And then I'm going to mount it on a firearm and we're going to take it to the range and see how it performs. So first off, let me go ahead and open up the box here. So you get the instruction manual, a nice little lens cloth, and as we open it up, let's first take the sight out. So you get the sight, here we go, it's got a little rubberized cover on it, protective cover, you can put that to the side, and here's the sight. You can see it's got a big objective lens on there. Very, very nice. And it's immediately already mounted on a Picatinny rail adapter. So it can go straight onto a Picatinny rail if that's what you like. If not, if you want to change it out, you've got the little screws there that you can switch out to use it for other purposes if you have a mounting plate for your particular firearm. So what else we have in here? We've got lots of different mounting screws for different plates. We got some wrenches here, a small one that's got a little screwdriver on the ends that's most likely meant for adjusting the windage and elevation, and then an Allen wrench. I'm not sure if it's a hex or what type it is, but basically meant for mounting or for using on the mounting screws. Let's see here. Here is the MOS plate that it comes with, so it's basically ready to be mounted on a Glock if that's the type of firearm that you're going to mount this on. More screws, so it comes with lots of different screws. And let's see here, I believe it came with 2 batteries. I've already put 1 battery in there, but here's the extra battery. I'm always happy with these newer companies. They're starting to put 2 batteries in with every sight, which is nice because I usually use those batteries up pretty quickly. So let me close up the box. That's pretty much what you get. And once we get this closed up, we can go through the sight a little bit. So as I said earlier, this does have a 2 MOA dot on it. It is meant for handguns, but can be mounted on rails for ARs or any other type of firearm that you want to mount it to. Now they claim it has rigorous testing, so it's undergone 1200 Gs of continuous impact to simulate use during shooting and works well. It's got an IPX7 level of protection, so it's good as far as moisture goes and having to worry about water getting into the area. It's got 10 levels of brightness to adjust, and the adjustment buttons are right here. You press them both to turn it on. If you want to turn it off, you just hold the minus button or the little negative button down for a couple of seconds and it turns off. But it's also a shake awake, so that means you don't have to necessarily turn it off. Once it hasn't been touched or used for a little bit, it'll automatically turn off, and then once you grab it and start moving it, it'll turn on again. And we'll check that here in a little bit. Now on the top is the adjustment for the elevation. On the side is the adjustment for windage, and one of the little tools does help you do that. It says it's a 1 MOA click. I'm assuming that means at 100 yards. Well, I guess with MOA it doesn't really require yardage, right? So I apologize for my ignorance there. Now it comes automatically, like I said, with an MOS adapter plate. It is a hexagon wrench and what they called a plum blossom wrench, so I guess that's a type of screw head, but that's what it comes with. Now this is a 24 by 20 millimeter multi-layer lens. It's supposed to provide a clearer and wider image with the red dot of a 2 MOA, as we said before. It's supposed to have a parallax of give or take under 2 MOA for precise experience. The RMR footprint says it uses, just mainstream RMR adapters. It is a shake awake. It goes into sleep mode after 8 minutes of inactivity, then can be reawakened with a slight shake. So we'll try that here in a second, like I said. So let me go ahead and let's get this thing turned on. So it's not on at this time. Let me press the buttons here and get it to turn on. And then let me get the brightness level up to make sure that we can see it. See, there we go. And like I said, it's got 10 levels of brightness, so let's get it as bright as it goes, which is pretty darn bright. Now let me see if I can find a way to balance this here. Maybe we can use the little rubberized adapter to see if I can somehow get this to where the camera can see the red dot. Can it see it there? There we go. That's not quite centered. That's centered. Centered, good enough. So I'm going to go ahead and wait, give it 8 minutes, see if it turns off. That's a little low, isn't it? There we go. That's a little better. So it's supposed to go to sleep after 8 minutes. Let's try that. I'm not going to touch it for 8 minutes. If it does turn off, then I'll shake it awake on camera. So let's go ahead and give it a few minutes. And just quickly now, what I did was I had a filming light on, which is a very bright light. So I turned it off real quick just to show you how bright this red dot is at its highest level. It's pretty darn bright, especially even with bright filming lights on top of you. So we're still within that 8-minute window. Let's see when it goes to sleep. Okay, so the time has passed by and it has gone to sleep. Now it's supposed to have a memory function, so when you do shake it awake, it's supposed to go back to the level that you had it on before. So let's see. Oh, look at that. Barely had to touch it and it came back on. So I'm very excited about using this sight. We'll see how it works once I take it out to the range. One more thing I wanted to point out is that unlike a lot of these sights that usually put the battery on the top, this one actually has a slot on the side. So one of the little Allen wrenches they give you is to pull these two screws off. You pull this out and it's a little tray to put the battery into, and then you slide it back in and tighten them up to make it nice and watertight. Like I said, it is an IPX7 level of water tightness, so I like that. I think it makes it a lot easier. Many times with those top loading batteries, getting that screw on the threads just right is kind of tricky. So this side battery makes it a lot easier. Also a lot easier to switch out batteries when you already have it mounted. So very excited. Let's go ahead and get this put on. Let's see here. What I'm going to put it on is a Beretta APX A1. I purchased this recently. Let me show you that the magazine is empty and there's nothing in the firearm. But I had to buy the mounting plate for an RMR style footprint, which is what this one will have once I take it off its Picatinny rail. So let's go ahead and mount it on this, see how it looks, and get ready to go out to the range. And here we are. Now I've got it mounted on my Beretta APX A1. Let me show you real quick that the firearm is unloaded. There is no magazine in. You can see that large optic. Yeah, it gives you a lot of view there. And there we go. I'm not sure you can see it through the camera here. There are 10 levels of adjustment, like I said previously. So let me get there we go. Now you can see it a lot better. You might be able to see it in the camera with the lower settings, but I can certainly see it through my eye, but it's a little harder to see it through the camera. But you can see there, you got a large field of view through that optic. You just set the brightness to whatever level you like, and then you are ready to go. So now that it is mounted and we are ready, let's go ahead and head out to the range and do some shooting. And here we are at the range. Unfortunately, due to circumstances, I couldn't head out of town, so I had to use the local indoor range, which is a pretty good range, but it doesn't allow for resting shots. So this sight says decided in at 50 yards using rested shots, and I think that's reasonable if you're putting it on a rifle. On a pistol, even with resting shots, I've sighted in red dots before. It's challenging enough at 25 yards, depending on the firearm that you're using or the handgun that you're using. But here I would not be able to rest, so I was going to have to do it at a shorter distance and then maybe fine-tune it later on. So I loaded 10 rounds into the magazine. I have the target. I think I only have it out at about 5 yards because these are the first shots that I took through the through this pistol with this particular light on it. I've taken this Beretta out a few times. I'm under 500 rounds in it right now. Probably closer to 300 rounds through it, maybe a little bit more. And it's starting to shoot much better. The trigger seems to be improving with time. But here I am getting my shots off. So 10 rounds through. I think it was 10 rounds. So this is one of those fancy ranges that lets you call the target up with a little computer screen. And I don't know if you can see there. I will move the camera. But you'll be able to see that right off the bat it was pretty close to center. Like this was very, very close. Like I said, I think it was 5 yards when I started. And I decided, well, let me move it out to 7 yards, since the options on this one are 5, 7, 25, and then 15, 25, and 50? No, that's not 50. That's got to be 25 yards max. So there, I think I moved it out all the way to 15 yards.
Decided to take some shots off. I suppose I decided to empty a full magazine. Well, it's not a full magazine. The magazine takes 15 rounds. But when I'm sighting in, I usually put anywhere between 5 and 10 rounds. And in this one, I'm pretty certain I put in 10. Then I bring the target back. If I remember correctly, you'll see here in just a second. It's hitting around the same area, maybe slightly low and to the left. And I was a little unsure, since I'm not taking rested shots, if that is where my point of impact is with the point of aim of the red dot, or if I'm maybe slightly pulling the shots down and to the left. But I felt like I wasn't jerking the trigger or squeezing my grip. So what I decided to do was drift the sight over a little bit to the right and a little bit up. And the clicks on this are MOA clicks, so at 50 yards it'll be half an inch, at 100 yards it'll be at a full inch. So let's see here, yeah, it's 15 yards. I decided to send it out to 15. Here I have some smaller targets with a larger orange target in the center. Yeah, it's only 15 yards, but it looks far away. And with a pistol unsupported, it's a good distance. If you can hit well at 15 yards, you're doing well with a pistol. You can hit well at 25 yards, you're doing very well with a pistol. And if you can hit well at 50 yards, you're a pretty amazing shot with a pistol. So I'm shooting at the top left target. I think I decided to go ahead and do all 10 rounds. Originally I considered doing 5 rounds, then 5 rounds. But just to go ahead and get some rounds down range, I decided to go ahead and put 10 rounds every time I adjusted the sight to see where I'd be hitting. Should almost be done. I'm much happier with the Beretta APX A1 now. Right out of the box, that trigger felt terrible, but it has loosened up quite a bit. So as you can see, I kind of hit all around the target. Certainly not precise, although I was taking slightly faster shots. They weren't fast shots, but I wasn't taking my time really squeezing the shots slowly. They were so spread out I wasn't sure if I should adjust the sight, so I decided, you know, let me go ahead, put it back out there at 15 yards. And this time, I'll go ahead and take slow, calm, steady shots at the top right target. Luckily, I think I had loaded 2 magazines, so I'll have my other magazine with 10 rounds ready to go. Yeah, there we go. Loaded and ready to go. You can see I use a very aggressive grip. That's something that has changed over my life, but the aggressive grips on pistols seem to really help me shoot much better. Yeah, you can see I'm taking much slower shots, taking my time, really trying to make sure I'm centering that red dot on the target, squeezing the trigger slowly, not adjusting my hands or squeezing my hands as I pull the trigger. Getting a little belch fire here and there. Luckily for me, I got there just as this range opened, so it was nice and calm. There was no one shooting yet. I always get the guy with the pistol AK or AR-15 deciding to shoot a bunch in the pistol range, which is fine. They are technically pistols. Well, some of them are technically pistols. But boy, that can be somewhat difficult when you have somebody with a rifle calibered pistol in the bay next to you shooting off a bunch of rounds. Now, as you can see here, and I'm even surprised myself, I'll move the camera to show it, I do tighten my groups quite a bit, so I was proud of myself for that. And see, I got them real tight. However, to the right and slightly up. So, since that seems to be where I'm actually hitting when I'm taking slower, calm shots, I decided I need to drift it over to the left and maybe click it down. Now, as far as how you sight yours in, it'll depend on what you think. Yeah, showing showing the magazine with 10 rounds, sending it back out to 15 yards. But you know, the distance that Like I said, the instructions say to sight it in at 50 yards, and if you're putting it on a rifle, that's probably smart or fine. On a pistol, I don't think that's quite appropriate. I would sight it in for whatever distance you think you're practically going to be shooting out of your pistol. And just remember that closer to that range and further to that range, you're either going to be hitting a little high or a little low. It's always good to know the trajectory of the ammunition that you're using, depending on the firearm that you're using. I know that's sort of asking a lot of a shooter, but it's good to know that if I'm shooting at 25 yards or I have it sighted in at 15 or 25 yards, where am I going to hit at 5 yards or where am I going to hit at 50 yards? Now at 5 yards is probably just going to be a little bit lower as your sight and the distance between your sight and muzzle starts to make an effect. And then beyond that, you're just going to get the bullet drop. So I'm taking slower shots, not quite as slow as I was taking at the top right target after my last adjustments. Okay. And then bring the target back. And I'm delighted to see that I hit pretty well. I probably need to switch the sight a little bit over to the left, just slightly more. Maybe another click down, depending on what distance I want it for, but that's actually pretty good as far as height. I just need to adjust the windage a little bit to the left. I decide not to do that, though, just because that's actually pretty good at 15 yards, and I don't want to adjust any finer than that without having resting shots.
And now that we are back from the range, my final thoughts, well, it performed very well. I was able to get a good view through it. I actually had to lower the brightness a little bit just to get a more precise shot. I do like the brighter settings, and outside in the daytime, I'm sure they would be very, very useful. But when you're trying to get a very precise view of the dot, when you're trying to sight it in on target, I like to have it a little less bright because you have more definition with the dot. But it shot very well. After I mounted it on this firearm, it seemed to have been almost on target immediately. I just had to make a little bit of an adjustment up and to the right, and then it was ready to go. So once again, the Feyachi RDS-57 2 MOA pistol red dot sight. A good sight for the price. It's a great value, especially if you're just starting out with red dot sights on either pistols, or I know some people would like to probably mount these on rifles as well. But for me, I'm just going to be using this one on a pistol. Although I'm not sure this is the pistol it will end up on. For now, I do like it, and I'll probably keep it on here for a while since I'm actually shooting this Beretta a little better now that the trigger is starting to get broken in. But as always, thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I will see you in the next video.